Hello everybody, welcome back to the channel. So here we go with Game of Thrones episode 4. Now this episode things pick up a little bit more, it takes off a little bit more, it's probably a little bit better than episode 3. Quite a few things, well, not tons, but a few interesting things go on in this episode. We are introduced to Sam up at the ice wall as the Men of the Night's Watch, and he is not doing too well at the beginning of this episode. When they first introduce him, he does not do well at all, and you feel really bad for him. And Jon Snow is the only one that sticks up for him, and eventually they develop quite a bond with each other, and Jon ends up saving his ass quite a bit from the politics of the men of the Men of the Night's Watch at the ice wall. It's really good camaraderie in the filmmaking and the writing in this episode with that. We get a hilarious scene which takes place with Khaleesi's brother. I forget his name, but he's got a prostitute in his in the bath with him, and it seems like it's all going well, and then he just has this neurotic. I mean, he's an asshole in the movie, so in the show. So you if you know the character, so he has just this neurotic sort of OCD aversion to this one thing that she says, and he ends up just creating a hilariously awkward moment of, I mean, being a complete dick, being rude, of course, but still, nonetheless, creates a hilarious, awkward dynamic between the two and that moment, and that was a pretty funny scene to watch. At the very end of this episode, Tyrion is being blamed for the injury of Bran, which we all know is far from the truth, but it just ends off the episode. They're just swarming him and surrounding him and going to haul him off for persecution just at the very end of this episode. So it's interesting to see what happens next with all of that as the story continues through. Yeah, what else do we got? We learn a bit about Jon Snow. We learn a bit of backstory on him, really interesting. We learn some stuff about why he is where he is and how he got to be there, and some of the different setbacks that have happened to him in his past. And he compares, Sam thinks that it's not anything to do. Someone like Jon Snow could not relate to his problems or his setbacks at all, but it turns out he actually does a lot more than you would imagine, and it delves into that really well. In this episode, there's a really good scene of dialogue with the leader of the army at the Night's Watch. Again, I forget his name too, but the leader of that army that trains all those guys there, he tells a really heavy, brutal story about the last winter that happened and being out beyond the wall. That's a heavy scene. It's a really well-acted scene. It's an intense scene, and the character that portrayed him did a really good job at conveying that, and it's just a really well-written, good scene of dialogue. And yeah, so this episode picked up. It really did pick up, and it kind of tuned me in more than episode 3 did per se. We learn also about the Hound. This is the episode that we actually hear his true story about what happened to him as a child and why he is the way he is now. Again, that's a really well acted scene and a good scene of dialogue too. It's the story is said really well, and it's quite a very heavy story. And so, yeah, again, I mean, we're still just gearing up to the main events, but it's definitely picking up more in this episode, and so therefore I will leave Game of Thrones episode 4 off with a B. All right, that's where we are, and look forward to more reviews, guys. Thank you very much for watching.